Music has been used to sell emotions in media for as long as it has existed. But only recently have we started to see a blend of emotional storytelling paired with extensive orchestras in the world of video games. 2 decades ago, the technology just didn't allow for it. And while there are some standout examples, the landscape of video game music has only started to catch up with the latter half of this last decade or so. But of all the standouts in the industry, of games like Bastion or Minecraft that swell with beautiful scores, Call of Duty, whose lobby music is hardwired into most of our minds, or Doom's fantastic music that practically invented a new genre of rock in Argent Metal. All the while, one studio was perfecting the use of not only the most advanced engine in the gaming landscape at the time, but also the use of one of the most brilliantly designed scores ever penned to paper. And from the series praised for big bulky soldiers that wake up and chug a gallon of Tren, you'd be surprised how well it works. So join me today, ladies and animals, as we delve into the history and flawless execution of score across the Gears of War franchise. Also note a hint of bias, because I've loved these games since I was 8, and the E-Day trailer really got me hyped up. Now, Gears isn't the only franchise to pull this off. In fact, it's not the only of War franchise to do so. The way music can convey the story to an audience is just as noticeable in Santa Monica's God of War reboot, where the title theme is a perfect representation of Kratos' own journey in the games. Scored by Bear McCreary, the brilliant mind behind the Walking Dead's motif, if you listen to God of War 2018 and Ragnarok's title themes back to back, they are nearly identical. But just nearly. At the halfway point of each track, they diverge from one another, where the first builds up, kilters out, and then builds back into a triumphant theme for Kratos. Signifying the return and strength of the God of War, Ragnarok goes in a different direction, adding in both the themes of Atreus and Faye that play along Kratos' main motif. Signifying his greater bond and connection with the rest of his family. In just the smallest change, Ragnarok's version of the theme instantly portrays a more focused, kind, and caring Kratos. All that just through the music alone. Some titles just know when and where to play the right kind of music that swell in a way to convey the emotion of a scene. One mission I will never forget for the music alone is Ransacked, towards the end of Wolfenstein: The New Colossus. For some background, this mission takes place near the end of the game, where your base is discovered and, as you could guess, ransacked by the Nazis. It's a struggle as some characters are picked off, the rest go running, and they're such an oppressive force that BJ, our protagonist, is almost entirely unable to do anything about it. Fighting back in this desperate attempt to keep your friends alive as the base literally comes down in a fiery blaze all around you, the melody of Mick Gordon's emphatic rock ballad screaming under every reload, every footstep, and every dead Nazi. Another great example is the short but sweet ending to Metro Exodus. Minor spoiler, but during the end of the game, a track called Race Against Fate plays, a triumphant building score that makes you feel like Artyom and the Colonel are gonna squeak out one last victory, one more run before they can start new, fresh lives in the new world, before ending on a somber note with the reveal that the Colonel, and depending on your actions, Artyom, didn't make it after all. Not only is this the same effect done in Gears of War, but masterfully implemented with giant scores from Steve Jablonsky, the wonderful composer who also worked on the Transformers films. Each game has its own sound and style to the music. The original by Kevin Riepel is dark and horrific with touches of military glory on faded pages. All the tracks from this first game are slower, more methodical, much like the gameplay itself. The sequel brings a new sense of scale with massive horns and marches as the COG mobilizes its entire population for the war effort. Gears of War 3 finishes with grand works that are more desperate, more savage, and more intense than ever, but also features a strong sense of melancholy. Of the end. A heroic undertone as humanity fights the greatest battle yet for their survival. Now, the music for Judgment and the later sequels by Ramin Djawadi are also fantastic, but they'll have to wait for another time. In a game like Gears, you might expect the standard action music, and there is plenty of that, from Trainwreck signifying the Locust as what is essentially their theme, to tracks like Hammer Meet Anvil. A dedicated flurry of percussion and slamming horns that perfectly encapsulate the besiegement of Anvil Gate by the Locust. Standout pieces like Hanover's Favorite Son go a long way to characterize the world at large and these characters we've come to love.
Train, you ever gonna let anyone else have that ball? Take the play off. I tell you, man, this is our team.
During the Coltrane's nostalgic trip of his home in Hanover, we get this unique track that just spells Americana with the music. These classical horns are just like the hype song of your college's marching band. Of course, we also have big swelling tracks like Father and Son or Live For Me that help bring us in and ground the player in the emphatic narrative, touching on our hearts as Marcus discovers in just a few minutes loses his father. These games are laden with great music, but there is one very specific track that drew people into Gears, and its use in Gears of War 3 is a perfect masterclass in audio production and how to make music that plays along with a scene. This is a piece of music made of 4 main parts, each of which fits so perfectly that even just listening to the track on its own, separate from the scene it was made for, can instantly fill you with the same emotional beats as it portrays on screen. The soft and slow intro, a motif from With Sympathy, the track that coincided Dom's mercy killing of his wife Maria in Gears of War 2, is brought back for his final prayer at the Santiago's Angel, putting us in the boots of this soldier, this man, this father, who has lost everything and simply longs to be with his family once more. A family who's been ripped from his hands by a war started by uncaring leaders who literally waited out the apocalypse in a golden resort. The second chapter of this song is the action where Delta lands between a rock and a hard place. With Lambent coming up from behind and the Locust pinning them down out front, their ammo supplies start to run dry as Dom is separated from the crew. We transition into a melancholy that starts soft once more, but then builds. Dom has already made his choice. Hopping into the truck, he speeds off, and at first, like Marcus, we're confused.
Dom, where are you going?
Then the music swells. Dominic is hyping himself up, preparing himself for what he's about to do. Everything else becomes a muted blur. The gunfire, the roars of beasts below, none of it matters, as Marcus and we, the audience, watch on helplessly as Dom rears the truck, hoping to give himself for us, so that Marcus can save the world. It builds and builds as we can do nothing but watch. The horn of the truck screaming through the tunnel as everyone runs for cover, and when it finally comes, there's nothing we can do but accept it.
Dom! No!
The music cuts off and goes into a quiet stream for a moment as clarity comes to Dominic. He's giving himself for something greater, and he's ready to go. He's ready to see his wife and children once more, to be free from this hell on Earth. Or hell on Sarah, I guess. And in the blast, everything goes numb. Fading in over the chaos, over all of the death and loss, is the one piece of music that drew so many people into the series back in 2006. Gary Jules' Mad World. Separated from its lyrics and here in melody only, plays over the final sacrifice of Dominic Santiago just half a day before the world was saved. And even as the world comes back, Marcus wanting to save his brother from an inescapable fate, all he can do is sit and accept the fate that became of Dom, of the mad world that took the lives of his wife and kids, and ultimately, Dom himself.
It's okay, Marcus. It's okay. Come on. We gotta go now. Your father still needs us.
Dom.
The biggest difference between this track on album and in the game is its inclusion of Mad World, which definitely makes a difference in selling us on the emotional through line of the original Gears trilogy with Marcus and Dom. But the album variant features Autumn of Humanity, which is the song used for the death screen from Gears of War 2 onwards, and something about that works just as well for me. But Gears of War 3 was all about tomorrows, and the sacrifices we make in order to forge a better tomorrow for ourselves and the people around us. For Dominic and Adam, that included their end as a sacrifice to help others around them go into a life of peace and safety. Music can do an incredible amount of work to convey emotion through a narrative lens. For this, I just wanted to highlight some of my favorite examples in some of my favorite games, but there are definitely hundreds more. From games like Ghost of Tsushima and Way of the Samurai transitioning into Way of the Ghost, or even something simpler like the Helldiver Suite playing each time you launch onto a new world to spill alien blood. What's your favorite piece of music in games? What's that one track that cemented a scene in your memory forever? Let me know down below. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment below if you liked that and want more. Our Colorful World charity collection is still up. If you can, please grab a shirt, a mug, or donate directly to the links below. And with that, stay cool, have fun, and be awesome. Buster out.